Hi, this is Randy. In this video we want to go through the basic installation of openSUSE Leap 15. openSUSE is a great product, great distribution of Linux, and very fun to work with. So what I've done is I've done my basic build in VMware. I'm building this as a virtual. Following my build doc, I've created my settings for my virtual, the network card, hard drive space, RAM, and so on. Mounted the ISO. ISO is easy, free to download from the internet. openSUSE, as opposed to SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, openSUSE is non-licensed. I mean, it has an open source license, but there's no purchasing of licenses or anything like that that are required in order to do updates. Let's go ahead and get the installation started. All right, so here we go. We we've defaulted to language and keyboard, but to test those out, it's a good idea. Sometimes we forget that Linux is installed all around different parts of the world, not necessarily where we are. And so you have keyboard choices and language choices, and it would be good to check those out before you move into the installation. So it is an open source license here, and no purchasing required. Yeah, I mentioned too that it's pretty useful to be connected to the internet while you're doing this installation. It gives it the chance to go out and synchronize time and to do some different things. And so for my build here in our class, I now have this machine onto the HED 224A network so that I have DHCP and DNS provided to it. Which will help me during installation. Once I've got it installed and configured, I'll move it over into our other network, our CorpNet network. So on this screen here is probably the most important decision that you'll make when you install openSUSE, and that's what desktop are you going to use. You don't have to use any desktop. If we click on server, it'll install to a command prompt, much like a Windows Server Core. In classes gone by for the past number of years, I mean for many years, we went with the GNOME desktop, but in getting ready for this class and doing research and seeing that it pre-selected KDE Plasma, it looks like KDE Plasma is kind of like the new de facto standard for openSUSE, and so we're going to go with that and give that a try. Also, this button down here for online repositories, not really much for us to do there just yet. If we needed debug tools and that kind of thing, we could select those from there. Now this screen has taken a look at our hard drive, and it has broken it out and suggested how it should be divided up. There are no drive letters in Linux. There are only partitions, and it's taken this 20 gigabyte hard drive we gave it and broken it out into SDA 1, 2, and 3, and you can see the space allocations. If we click here, it'll show you beyond that what's on these. Most of these are on SDA 2, as I believe you're SDA 2. There are things like is the root user's home directory. That's kind of important. Where are all the other users' home directories? There's a lot of standardization among Linux, and you're seeing it here. A temp, a user, a var directory, and so on. If we wanted to customize this some, we could go through guided, where it would walk you through and let you pick. It would walk you through, or you could go to expert, where it would remove everything that it suggested and let you pick and choose and create what would work good for you. Pretty handy as you gain experience with Linux, to give you an idea. Like if you want to set aside space for a web server or set aside space for file sharing, like for Windows Samba, those kind of things, you can do that here. Okay, pretty straightforward here with Timezone. It's hard to get this video short. This is my third run through it, and I keep trying to get the time down. So I'm going to do my best to abbreviate here. I'll just mention that you can, under other settings here, you can reference a network time server. If you're on the internet, there's one. I'll just show you. There's one provided here for you. This is from openSUSE. These are just handy things by being on the internet. We're in Pacific time, and so we select that here. The username that we create here, the username itself is just for display purposes. For our class, we're using site root. Notice that it recreated that in lowercase. Usernames in Linux are case sensitive. And then our class password here. Okay. One thing that it does here that I'd like to undo, and that's it does automatic login, and literally that's what it is. For this user who we are giving administrator privileges, by checking this box, if we check this also, it will automatically log in that user every time the server boots, and so that'd be kind of a security risk. So we're not going to do that. This is another great window to look at, and again, we're basically doing a default install here, but I want you to see these things because our goal here is to teach Linux and give you exposure to Linux, not just to get you through this install. So what you have here, the one I want to focus in on is this one right here. During installation, it shows you what packages, in Linux they call these packages, it shows you what packages it's selected, and you can look at those and say, well, yeah, I do or I don't need that. Perhaps our goal is to really make this as a server, and so to have Office software installed is really not necessary. To have games installed, no, that would be a bad idea on a server. Down here, we could enable some server functionality right off the bat. We could check this box, and the web server role or service or daemon or package, however you want to say it, would be installed at the get-go. We're not going to do any of that. We're doing a default install here, and I'm going to leave these desktop things selected. If time allows, we never know kind of how the project goes each year, but if time allows, it'd be great to come back and do some more work with openSUSE. Very strong product. I'll cancel that and then move forward. All right, so we're ready to install. And once this starts, it's going to take roughly about a half an hour or so. And of course, I'll pause the video, and when we come back, then you'll see. I'll tell you what's going to happen. It will finish this, and then it will tell you that it's going to reboot, and it'll have a countdown timer that you could interrupt, and it'll count down, then it'll reboot, and we'll be taken into the login screen. And that's where I'll pick up there with you, and actually we'll do that in the next video. I'll pick up there with you because I want to just show you some basic things. How do you set the IP address, wallpaper, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, and we'll pick up with part 2 of doing some post-installation settings.